our veterans in a safe environment and just do life with them. Talk about spiritual things. You know, what's God telling you? What are you doing about it? Took 6 years to find that young man right there, Jeremiah Bull. Just did session number 3 last night. We do it every third Wednesday out in Gardner, Kansas at a place called Ash and Anvil with a cigar. Great. So Jeremiah, thank you. This was last night. This is one of the owners right here. And she's now flying the fish flag over there at the cigar place, which is kind of cool because we're doing this whenever we can. There's a great place in Olathe called Simplified Nutritional, run by Marine, owned by Marine. And 9/11, I popped in there. It was a tough day for him, as it was for so many people around the world. And we gave him a flag, and man, that was the first thing he put up the minute I walked out, because a couple hours later, Justin walked in and there was a fish flag flying. So, yeah, pretty cool. Last month, if you missed it, we had a recon Marine that served in Somalia share his story. Justin Murray had a powerful message, and I know it resonated with a lot of folks that came that night. Now, on the 19th of August, our other friend Justin over here did a motorcycle ride that benefited F.I.S.H. And I don't know, 130 bikes, raised some money for F.I.S.H., and it was really phenomenal because there we are in Olathe at the Indian store. I ride a Harley, but I like Indians too. Older than Harley. But we presented service dog number 40 to combat veteran nurse, served in Vietnam, Lou Eisenbrandt. The service dog's name is Brittany, named after this young lady right here. And Brittany's father, Bill, brought Brittany's dog, Hattie, to the event. Sadly, we lost Brittany in 2017 to another soldier. And but it was pretty amazing to have Bill and his family, you know, Brittany's family there, and for Lou to meet her dog that's named after our friend Brittany. And some more pictures from that day. And some of the guys went to St. Joe for a motorcycle rally, just spreading the fish word. We did an event out in Lake, what's the name of that lake out there? It's out in Lacine. Tanglewood Lake? Has anybody ever been out there? Wow, it was something else. Man, there were 300 or 400 people there, the most patriotic people I've ever met in my life. What was so stinking cool was that, you know, I was talking about our veterans and this and that. I asked a guy that was sitting in the front row about his flag. He had an American flag. Hey, looked like you served in Vietnam, right? That's right. What was your MOS? 88 Bravo, I think is what he said. And, man, people were yelling from all over, standing up. You know, here's my MOS, standing up, blah, blah. It was unfreaking believable. This is this guy's grandson right here. Served in Vietnam. He was showing me all of his bullet wounds, man. And he said, you know, I didn't want my grandson serving. I really didn't. But that's what our family does. How many of you have followed your family's footsteps as well into the service? Yeah. His grandson was so proud. But it was a great day. Then we followed that up with the 9/11 event over at Rock and Brews, and I know a lot of our volunteers was there. And next month, we're going to have Lieutenant Colonel Greg Chewy doing a presentation on the space shuttle, which he was involved in. That's also the first time that we're ever going to do a dinner. So we're going to do a catered dinner. So if you want to sign up for that dinner, there's some sheets on your tables there, or you just go to our website and sign up there. An email also went out. If we don't have your email, please get that to us so you can stay apprised of what we're up to and what we're doing. But just a clarification, you do not have to have dinner to come and enjoy the speaker series. If you just want to come and not eat dinner, that's fine too. Just show up. And then the big event, November 30th, Christmas with our troops. Who was here last year? Man, was that something else? That was phenomenal. We were expecting it to be even bigger and better this year. It'll be November 30th. That way, as you guys know, we hand envelopes to the Santa and the helper, hands envelopes to those soldiers and their families, and we want to make sure that they have plenty of time so they can go shopping, you know, when they receive their gift. But, all right, so that gets us to this guy. man, 2017, this guy, where's he at? Where's this guy? There he is. Came and spoke December 2017. He spoke at Outlaw Cigar at our speaker series there, because that's where we started, Outlaw Cigar. But, you know, it's grown a lot, and plus we want to have young people to come to the event. So we decided to expand. Dan, being a great friend, said, hey, come to our place. We did. And so Dan, a lot more room this time. Greg, a lot more room this time. But let me give you a little rundown on Greg before he comes up here. He spent 16 seasons playing pro baseball. He got traded from the Chicago White Sox to KC Royals in '82. He hated the Royals. Is that true? Hated the Royals at the time, but loves them now. He helped them win the 1985 World Series. He and his wife, Michelle, she's awesome. Been married 44 years, raised 3 daughters, all graduates of U of Kansas, KU. Since 1994, he and Michelle have run a health and nutritional company called Life Priority. You can look him up at lifepriority.com, right? And he's written a book about his career, The Day the Yankees Made Me Shave. And today, he's going to share a little bit about his life, his career in the Major League Baseball League, and my friend, Greg Pryor. Let's hear it for Greg.
Okay. Do I need this hand mic? I don't need this mic. I want to especially thank Paul for all he's done. I know that everybody in here knows him, but when I met him, I was like, this guy is not for real. He's not that good. He's not that nice, but he loves everybody. You know, and I haven't heard too many people say anything bad about you, Paul, so keep it going. You're doing good. But when he asked me to come talk, you know, I've done 2 times now. I've done it, I think I've done it twice, haven't I? Maybe. But I didn't want to repeat the same old stuff that you might have heard last time. How many's here for the first time? Okay. I mean, how many people have heard me speak before? Oh, that's good. This is all new stuff. Okay. No, I want to just say thank you for, if you are, being a fan of baseball, because it helped me earn a living for many years. And I'm going to tell you some things about baseball that you've never heard before, because it was my experience, and I'm here to share that, because I think baseball will become more alive to you if you can follow me through here. And I shouldn't be long, because I've got 2 friends here that I might think have an appointment to go to. But might as well get him on the stage right now, because I'm so glad that you're here. When baseball is played, there's hits and errors. And there's a man in the press box that's making my living or not, because there's a lot of marginal calls, or close to being calls, of what's a hit and an error in baseball. So I was thinking today, if my friend shows up, I'm going to have him come and explain it, because he's a special man, and I'm very proud of him for doing what he does, because it's not easy. So I'm going to open it up right now to anybody in here. Do you have a real quick definition of what a hit or an error is in baseball? If you were the official scorer, what would you have to decide in your head whether it was a hit or an error? Anybody have anything they want to share about? Do you ever watch baseball games and say, that was an error, well, that was a hit? Well, I'm going to have Professor Utzler come up. Max, he's an official scorer for the Kansas City Royals. Professor Max Utzler, come on. He's been a professor, so he might talk for a long time.
I think it's on. You may not get the mic back. I'm used to doing hour and 15-minute classes. So what specifically would you like me to address?
How did you get hired as the scorekeeper for the Kansas City Royals, number one?
Well,
you never played pro ball.
No. I've been around baseball all my life. Mike Swanson, I'm sure most of you have heard of Swanee. He was the media relations director for the Royals. And once I went from a 12-month contract to a 9-month contract, my summers were free. I talked to Swanee about doing some more stuff, maybe helping out with TV broadcasts, because TV is where my experience was. And and he had me do a few things here and there. And then after a couple of years, when the MLB.com started, I started writing for them. And I'd played ball, obviously in high school, American Legion ball, Galesburg, Illinois. We had a great program. Jim Sundberg was one of my teammates back in those days. And then played at Division III school, Knox College. And then went to get my master's at Mizzou so I could become a college baseball coach. So I spent, while I got my master's, and 2 years after that, spent 4 years as an assistant coach with Mizzou, and then had to kind of decide what direction to go, and that was when I went to be more of a teacher, but I stayed active. I played on a semi-pro team. I got more baseball experience than you have. I played on the Columbia Stags, sponsored by the Stag Brewery, so we were well taken care of. And then when I was 40, left them and left Columbia, took a job in St. Louis. And I'll never play baseball again. And then when I moved here 2 years later, they started men's senior baseball. Do we have anybody in this group who plays men's senior baseball, Kansas City?
Would you like to? No, just kidding.
No, talk to me afterwards and I'll get you connected. We started with an over 30 league, and this was, gosh, back in 1987. I was member number 12 on that. And now I play in the over 65 league, and I'm way over that age limit there. And then we have a good place to get started, the Sunday backyard league. So, I mean, I certainly played more games this year than you did.
Okay,
so.
get to the hits. Get to the hits and errors.
I was
Let's
just
go.
trying to, because he was
My time's running out.
because he was questioning my credentials of why I became an official scorer. I know more about baseball than you do.
Hey,
Greg.
that's why you're up here. That's why you're up here.
One of the myths of official scoring is that if a fielder gets a glove on the ball, it's automatically an error. I can't tell you how many people I've sat with at a game. Oh, that should be an error. Had one recently. Were you watching TV the night that Bobby Witt Jr. hit the inside the park home run? Oh, here's what happened. The ball goes into the right center field gap, and the right fielder, who was left-handed, comes running over, and the ball just creases off the tip of his glove, and it rolls to the wall. And Bobby, that night, he ran the 4th fastest inside the park home run in Major League history. You know, he can fly. So he takes off around there, and so I did want to make one more check. I mean, I was sure that it was going to be a hit, but I have a stat screen right next to me. Ball was hit 107 miles an hour. I used to say, ooh, that should be hit. That ball was hit really hard. Now I can prove it. I know exactly how hard it was hit. And then also, as I looked at the replay on it, it was dusk, and you know how bad that can be seeing at Kauffman Stadium, and it looked to me like the right fielder lost in lights a little bit. So I scored an inside the park home run. And at the next half inning, here comes the PR guy from the Seattle Mariners. He goes, I'd like you to take another look at that. I said, why is that? He goes, I think it should be an error. And so I took another look at it and then called him back and said, okay, here's how hard it was hit, lost it in the lights, and that's a hit all the way from me. And he does have a way he can appeal that. So, I thought we were done. Then he comes back the next half inning. He said, I just got a call from the dugout. Could you take another look at it? We think Julio, great center fielder Julio Rodriguez, ought to get an error. And he did bobble the ball a little bit out there. So I looked at this replay at high home so I could see where Julio was. Bobby is 30 feet rounding second base, never broke stride. That's one of the things to look for. If he would have held up thinking, okay. And at that point, Julio juggles the ball, picking it up. And I said, Bobby would have scored on a 250-foot ground ball single. The ball's laying on the warning track, to which the Mariners guy said, yeah, but Julio's got a hell of an arm. I said, so he's going to throw out Bobby Witt from 385 feet. Well, anyway, That's the life of an official scorer there.
Thank you. Give Max a round of applause. Every night, you're just like an umpire, huh, Max?
That's it. And that's why they don't put our names on the scoreboard.
Can they hear me now? Is this on? Yeah. Okay. I want to go through a list of what we have in common, so you hopefully you'll like me a little bit more before I get into my baseball stories. We all wore a uniform. Everybody, raise your hand if you wore a uniform in your life. Uniform. Yeah, me too. I started wearing it when I was in Little League in Akron, Ohio, when I was 7, and I wore it for 30 straight years. We all were in a group when we wore a uniform. We had a superior officer, or in my case, a manager. We had a time schedule. Be on time. You never were late in the military, were you? Were you ever late? I don't think so. We had teammates that supported us. Sometimes we had ones that we could go talk to about things that were bothering us. Too bad that I'd never talked to George Brett about hitting, because he never gave me one tip, you know? We were watched and we were counted on to perform. Yes, we were, every day. You represented your branch, whatever you were, in the way that you were supposed to. We stood for the national anthem. And I stood at third base in front of 40,000 people, because they used to play the national anthem when we took the field. So I'm standing out there at third base, and after I stopped listening to the guy on the first row say, "I paid to see George Brett. I didn't pay to see Greg Pryor. I paid to see George. Where's George?" I didn't do anything. I just got ready for the first pitch. But the hot air balloons were coming over, and it was hardly any breeze that night, and the national anthem was played, and I'm telling you, I've had some great experiences of playing baseball, but that night was one of the most peaceful feelings I had, to be in a country like this, where I got to go play in a game like that, in front of people like those, and sit there and wait for the game to start, thinking that the ball was going to be hit to me the first pitch. It was nothing like it. I mean, I wish you all could have been there. I'm trying to share it with you, how exciting it was to be out there getting ready for that ball to come at me at third base. And then we got some respect for our service. You know, my respect is on my baseball cards. Kids still send them to me. I got some tonight. If you want some, I'll give them to you after I'm done talking. You can come pick one up if you want. You must have a young one somewhere that wants one of my baseball cards. even if you don't, I don't care. You know, they still send them. But that's some of the things we had in common. So when Paul asked me to come, it was like, no problem, I'll come. But I'm going to get into areas, 4 areas real quick, and then we'll be gone. I'm going to talk about some fun. I'm going to talk about fear. I'm going to talk about failure. And I'm going to talk about forgiveness. And I'm going to tie it into baseball, and maybe you can relate to it in whatever you've done so far in your life. But I have a friend that has been to these meetings, David Naster. David comes to these, Paul, right? Well, David, I'm not promoting his book, but I am, because I found something in here that's so funny for me, and I hope it is for you. He wrote a book that says, you just have to laugh. And all I do tonight is create laughter, and every one of you, I've succeeded in whatever I'm trying to do, okay? But here's one of the stories in his book, and I was happened to read it, and like a great author that I'm not, people found mistakes in my book, and they would tell me, my 10th printing, they would say, Pryor, you got a mistake on page 123. Well, on page 115 of his book, he's talking a story about Bill Veeck. Bill Veeck was a famous baseball owner of many teams, and he gave me a chance to play in the big leagues, basically. I'll tell you that in a minute. But there's a story in here about Bill Veeck. I was going to read it to you. But as I was reading it myself, he misspelled Veeck. Veeck is V-E-E-C-K, and David, he didn't pay the right proofreader, spelled it V-E-C-K. So I texted him. I said, Dave, I was kind of like, nah, don't bring it up, Pryor. He might get embarrassed. He might not like you. But I told him, and I was reading it today, and I'm thinking I want to share it with you because it's kind of a cute story. And it goes like this. One summer night, while World War II was raging overseas, Bill stood on top of the Wisconsin Hotel. Bill Veeck. Merv Connors, first baseman for Veeck's hapless Cubs, Chicago Cubs, was drunk on the ledge and threatening to jump. Cautiously, Veeck asked, "Merv, have I ever been unfair with you?" "There was only one thing I got to say for you, Bill," Connors said, staring at the pavement. You treated me well." "Then I'm entitled to ask you for a small favor," Veeck asked gently. Merv glared, certain Veeck would try to talk him out of jumping. Veeck continued, anticipating Merv's suspicions. "Merv, I'd be the last guy to stop you from doing what you want, but could you wait until I call the newspaper so they can get a picture of you hitting the sidewalk? You'd make every front page in the country, and you'd have to admit, Merv, the team could use some publicity. Maybe you could change into your uniform first." That one got me. That's like, "Bill Veeck, I love you." Connors laughed. Then, without a word, he climbed off the ledge, got in bed fully clothed, and passed out. They never spoke of the incident again. Oh, I have way too much material for tonight, I promise you, because I love telling people about baseball in a different way than they've heard before, and I love telling you my personal experiences because you've gone through them in your life. Many of you have not suffered, but you've had fear, you've had failure, you've had things that didn't go well. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of like two things on fear for me. My first fearful moment that I remember in my life was not fighting with my brother. It was going out in the Ohio River in a rowboat in the fog with my grandpa, who had the boat in the mud. We went out catfish hunting on a Saturday morning, and it was fog everywhere. We couldn't see anything. I was just a small kid. I'm thinking, where are we going? I'm so scared. I was so fearful because I was thinking, if I fall out, nobody could ever find me, you know? I was thinking that because I couldn't tell. I said, "Grandpa, how do you know where we're at?" Well, guess what? Little did I know that this wasn't Grandpa's first fishing trip. You know, we caught a mess of catfish. We pulled him into the boat. We walked up the bank, over the railroad track, up the bank toward his house, and in the back of his house, he had this big old wooden platform with a bunch of knives sitting there. We threw them fish up there. He sliced their heads off. He filleted them right there. We walked them in the kitchen, floured them, cooked them, and ate them in probably within the hour. It was so cool that I remember that to this day of my memory of my grandpa. But I'm going to put up some slides now. And are we ready to go with the slides?
Sure. Want to hold on the video?
Well, I was gonna wait because they're paying attention. No, let's not interrupt them. They see me. The first one that nods, I'm quitting talking. Whatever one of you see it nods, I'm leaving. Now I'm going to show you my grandpa. The other way. There we go. There we go. Here's my grandpa right here. His name's Homer, get it? Homer Pryor. And he played in 1912 for a team in Ohio called Duffy, Ohio. You ever been there? Probably not. Well, that was 37 years before I was born. I was born in 49. And unfortunately, I don't have one story about my grandpa that I can tell you, that what he did to play for Duffy. And there's like 4 sets of brothers there. They all played together in a small town in Ohio. And I've been toying with the idea of taking a baseball show to baseball fans about the history of baseball that they've never heard before and they would love to see. Memorabilia, interviews, things like that. So stay close. We're getting ready to talk about it because I think people really would love a great baseball history show. So anyway, my dad was George, and I'm going to go backwards now because without my dad, or without my grandpa having my dad, George H. Pryor, I wouldn't be here tonight because my dad was the inspiration for me to pursue professional career, not because I thought I was good enough, but because he introduced me to it. And like Paul said, how many people got in the service because of relatives or friends giving you an introduction to it? So I got into baseball because my dad was introduced to it by Homer, and my dad got me involved. And I ended up getting ready to go to college. In 1967, I had no scholarship offers, and I wasn't drafted by the pros, and Vietnam was going on. Everybody knows about 67 in this country. It wasn't. It was a very interesting place. People were rallying against the war. People were rallying for it. And I'm looking. I said, "Well, Dad, what am I going to do out of high school?" And he goes, "You're going to go to Florida Southern College." I said, how? I don't have a scholarship. They don't want me. He goes, well, I'll see about that. Well, luckily for me, I had an older brother that was the best pitcher in the history of Florida Southern College. He was 8-0 as a freshman. And my dad went to the coach who had given him a 4-year scholarship. He says, I want you to give little Greg a scholarship, or Big Jeff's going to another school, and I'm going to put him in the same school. So my dad comes back to Orlando from Lakeland. He goes, guess what? You're getting a scholarship. And I'm thinking, wow, they want me. I played 4 years at Florida Southern College, 2-time All-American, Division II, and thinking that they wanted me. It wasn't until after I got out and got into the pros that the coach told me that my dad bribed him to take me. So let's hear it from my dad, who was a fullback for Wake Forest. I don't know why they didn't put a W on top of his helmet, but that's a gold. Remember, Wake Forest colors are gold. My dad was a fullback, and he ran with no face masks and no helmet. And he was still good looking later on in his life. I don't know how he did it. You know, how do you block those guys coming at you? But he had 6 children with my mom, who was, both of them were in the Glee Club in Sistersville, West Virginia together. And he ruled with an iron fist in certain ways, enough to straighten me out when I needed it. He believed in corporal punishment, let me tell you. He was strong, he was so strong. But he didn't know anything about baseball. Never taught me how to throw, never taught me how to hit, he didn't teach me. He just got me in the game, and that's how I learned it. It wasn't until I got in the big leagues and my dad's calling me up, Greg, why are you taking the first pitch for? You know, you need to start swinging at the first pitch. I'm thinking, Dad, I got here this way. I can't really, you know, I was nice to him, but he was trying to tell me how to hit when I got to the big leagues, which some people do. So be careful of who you take advice from. But I'm going to set up this real quick video. It's a 5-minute video on it, and then I'll end up with a few more stories if you want to sit around and listen. This video is it wasn't done professionally. It's kind of grainy, but I love it every time I watch it, because you're going to see one of my biggest thrills in baseball right in the second here. I'm going to set this up for you. I was with the Chicago White Sox. I hadn't played in 3 or 4 days, and we played the Oakland A's in Comiskey. It was a doubleheader. We played, and we beat them the first game. We were playing the second game. I hadn't played, so I'm going on 4 days without playing. In the 9th inning, we get a man on first base with 2 outs, and Tony La Russa, at the end of the dugout, goes right by the guy that he told was going to hit earlier, Bruce Kim from Iowa, right? Bruce Kim. He passed him up. He goes, Pryor, you're hitting. I'm thinking, who, me? And I had no bats down there. I didn't have any batting gloves down there. I was not ready to hit. I hadn't stretched in like 2 hours, right? Well, this is me coming up to home plate, and I'll just let the video explain to you what's going to happen here, and we'll talk to you when the video's over. Can we dim the lights? Just kidding. No, just kidding.
Lacey's pitch. Slider in there for a strike call. 1 strike to nothing. Arm is playing a short right field.
Harry Carey.
There's a ball. It might be. It could be. Sox win. Sox win. Sox win. Sox win.
They're singing "Na Na Na Na." Hear 'em?
Lacey starts off the field. Holy cow! Look at that, Bill Buck. Boy, Billy Martin, with his arms folded, just stayed there long enough to say something to the catcher, Mike Heath. A thrilling victory.
There's
by the
Charlie
Red
Finley.
Sox. There you see Charlie Finley. He's not so happy about it all. Holy cow!
It's nice being with an organization that I feel like really wants me, and I fit in well with this team because I can't replace a Frank White or George Brett, but I can complement the team in my own way.
ABC Sports presents the 1985 World Series from Royal Stadium in Kansas City. Game 1, the St. Louis Cardinals against the Kansas City Royals. The infielder Greg Pryor. Outfielder Dane Orr. Get some more insurance. Jackson will take them out with a 5-run lead. Well, they're going to take Brett out and put Greg Pryor in at third base. It's his much better. Last 3 we've seen. They'll test Pryor early, and he throws him out. Pryor is a fella playing in the World Series for the first time who last year, as a utility man, a lot of the Royals said, was their MVP. Remember, Brett was hurt a lot, and he kept throwing it all over the field, and they won the West last year, in good measure thanks to Pryor.
Nobody on. Final outcomes. Andy Van Slyke, the hitter, will hit a fly ball to fairly deep right center field. But Darryl Motley will be there to make the catch. Frank White's already celebrating. Motley making the catch. The game is over. The Royals win the 7th game of the World Series by a final score of 11-0. Dick Hauser tucking away his cap. The win goes to Brett Saberhagen, his 2nd in the series. Saberhagen named the most valuable player of the '85 series. Loss going to the cricket. How about this one? There she was, just a walking down the street, singing do-I-did-it-did-it-dum-did-it-do. The next thing. No. Snapping her fingers and shuffling her feet, singing do-I-did-it-did-it-dum-did-it-do. She looks good, she looks good, she looks fine, looks fine, looks good, looks fine. Are we going? Are we on? Are we on? We're not. Wait, are we on camera?
Okay, that's it. I don't know who put that together. I wish I'd give them credit, but they didn't put their names up there. But let me talk about a couple of failure items to bend it down a little bit before I leave with a big bang. Baseball was so hard for me to perfect because I was not a very fast guy. I didn't have much power. And what was the third thing that they said that was bad about me? Oh, I couldn't field. I was a bad fielder. And I made 50 errors in Carolina League 1973. And even though I hit over 290, they came to me and said, Pryor, you can't field. You have no power and you're slow, but you can hit a little bit. We don't know what we're going to do with you. And I'm thinking, oh, it's a bad scouting report. So what I did was, what all of us should do each day is to wake up and try to get better. You know, you can. We all can. We have to look for ways to get better. And I do that today. I'll be 74 October 2nd, and I'm not going to slow down. I'm involved in a lot of things, and it's not like I'm taking up a lot of time that it would be useful, Paul, but it was nice to come here because we have so much in common. We live here, and we love the FW. We love what that stands for. And there's a lot of people that you're helping that would like to be here tonight. And I'm talking to all of them. I'm thinking that the whole room is packed. It's packed in my mind, you know, because you help one person, you've helped 100 or more, okay? So I had to get better. I had to get better at my fielding because when I was 19, I was playing summer ball in Virginia, in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And I was a college kid, and I dove out to my left, and this bone came out and popped down here, was out of place for 45 minutes. And I wasn't even a pro, I was just playing college. And 3 weeks after the doctor was attending to me, he looked at me, he goes, son, I have to tell you something. He goes, I put electric shock on your shoulder, and you don't feel it, do you? I said, no. He goes, you've torn the nerves. The nerves control the muscles, and you have no feeling. You'll have to put your hand in your waist or in a sling the rest of your life. I'm sorry. And you know, nobody was there with me. I was by myself, and I started thinking, how am I going to play golf one-handed? You know, I started thinking that because I couldn't imagine not playing golf. Baseball, yes, because baseball wasn't as easy as golf was to me. I love golf. So anyway, guess what? Guess what? So my point to tell you that quick story, the shoulder got better only because I think that I willed it to get better as part of my therapy. I willed it to get better. I had to. I said, listen, you can get better. You can heal. Those things can get better. Well, I lost a couple of muscles in the front and the back, but guess what? It didn't stop me. I had to learn how to hit again. If I show you enough slides here, you'll see me hitting in college versus pro, and I had to change my swing. If it ain't working, change it. I wish I could go to the Royals batters and say, change it. With 2 strikes, what are you thinking? You know, with 2 strikes, why don't you just try to get on base, though you're bad at it? Try to get hit by the ball, anything. And Max, you know this as well as anybody. It's another era of baseball that we have trouble with because we don't like to see strikeouts. It's too easy to score. You're stealing the money. You not even have to roll a base or a hit on a strikeout. Anyway, that I got over that shoulder, and that was certainly a fear of losing a shoulder. But the time that I really want to share with you, and I'll end it, I think, unless you have questions, is that I worked so hard to get to the big leagues, even a major league camp. And I was in 3 major league camps with Billy Martin. I was in 73 camp. I was in the 74 camp in Pompano Beach, Texas Rangers. He was managing, and the 75 camp. I was in both camps. Well, 75 camp, he comes up to me. You know, Billy Martin's the one that played for the old Yankees, pretty famous guy. He comes up to me and he goes, Pryor, we're going to send you back to the minor league camp. He says, but I'm coming for an infielder, and I'm coming for you, so be ready. If I need one, you're my man. I'm thinking, I'm close. I'm close. All this suffering, these blisters, and all these sore muscles, and all this pain and suffering I've been through. Billy Martin's going to want me, right? So I go to the minor league camp in Plant City, Florida, and walk into the farm director, and I'm listening to Bachman Turner Overdrive on the way there. I'm all full of vigor, man. I'm ready to go. And he goes, Pryor, he goes, you'll be reporting to the Pittsfield team tomorrow. I said, Pittsfield, that's AA, right? He says, yeah, you're Joe Klein, yeah. He says, the AAA manager's already picked his shortstop. That's not you. I said, what? I said, Billy Martin just told me I'm coming to the big leagues. I can't be going to the big leagues from AA. They call people up from AAA. I need to go to AAA. I'm going to AAA. He goes, Billy Martin doesn't run this camp. I run this camp. You're the AAA manager. Don't want you. Joe's going to take you to Pittsfield. You're going to play in the frozen tundra of Western Mass the whole month of April and May. You're going to freeze your butt off up there, Pryor. You're going to wish you never played baseball. You're so cold. So, what would you do? You know what I said to him? I quit. I turned around, I walked out, I went out and got my car, and I drove to Orlando. That's where I was living with my parents. I went down to the basement of my parents' house, and you know what they said to me? Hey, Greg, you gave it a good shot. I think that's the worst thing they've ever said to me, really, because I didn't want to hear that. I wasn't ready to quit. It was pride and ego. So I called him back up. I said, I tell you what, I'll come back. I said, I got a split contract. I'm going to get $800 a month for AA and $1,000 for AAA. Can you at least give me the $1,000 in AA? Nope. You signed a split contract. You get $800 for AAA and $1,000 for, or $800 for AA, $1,000 for AAA. So I lost all my chances. I went back, and here I am talking to you about playing 10 years in the big leagues, okay? So I took my pride, stick it away. It ain't working for us. Stick it away. And don't ruin the good things that are just up the bend. I don't care if it's tomorrow or a month or a year or in heaven. I don't care. Your treasures are not here. But mine were in baseball. So I ended up going up there and freezing. Now, one thing about forgiveness. When I got to big leagues, one of my managers was Bob Lemon, who was a Hall of Fame manager. He's a great Hall of Fame pitcher, Bob Lemon. And I was so excited to play for Bob Lemon in '78 in Comiskey Park, where the first All-Star game was in 1933, I think, 1933. And all the guys were there. You know, I loved seeing old pictures of the All-Star game there, because when I got up to home plate, I knew this, that I was there, and Babe Ruth was right over there in 1933. Lou Gehrig was right over there in 1933 when I got up to home plate in Comiskey Park. I'm thinking, wow, this is... But, unfortunately, I was a minor league player trying to make it in the big leagues. This was my first year. I was a rookie at age 29. It took me till 29 to get to the big leagues to be a rookie. It doesn't happen too often. So one night we're playing Baltimore. I'm playing shortstop, and I get 2 ground balls hit right at me, and I missed them both, and 5 runs scored, and we lost the game by 5. And I was about as low as I've been since I had to go to Pittsfield. I'm telling you, it wasn't a good night. Why? Because every ball player lives and dies by his performance in that game. And you can make yourself feel better, or you can make the fans not want to come back. So I'm in the clubhouse walking around knowing that I'm the reason, I'm the big goat, you know. And Bob Lemon walked up to me. He put his arm around me with his nice nature that he had. And he looked at me and goes, Pryor, you're in there tomorrow. Go get him. You're back in there tomorrow. That's all it took. That's all it took. Who can we encourage to make a difference in somebody's life right now? There's so many people we could do that to, and it's easy. Bob Lemon putting his arm around me. I mean, he might have been cussing me underneath his breath. but what's that he was? He'd say, is that me? No. But what he did for me was give me a new lease on my baseball career, because he forgave me in my head. He forgave me. I went out the next night and I played for 10 more years. And that's what it took. I think I would have been crushed had he not sent that to me. I would have been so scared to make another error, because you can't be afraid to mess up. You are going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. But that forgiveness is what drove me to show him that I was better than what I did. I showed Bob Lemon because, you know, look at my baseball cards. Anyway, I have a list of the managers that I've had in my career. All these are professionals too, you know. A couple of them that you might recognize is Louis Aparicio. You ever heard of him? I played for him in Venezuela in 1977. He managed in Maracaibo. I just signed with the White Sox for quite a bit of money. And the Venezuelan league called me and they said, Pryor, would you like to play in Maracaibo? It sounded like paradise to me at $5,000 a month. I said, yeah, I'll be down there in 2 days. So I went down there and played for Louis. And I played for Pete Ward, who was a famous third baseman for the White Sox in Syracuse. Felipe Alou, one of the Alou brothers. I played for him in the Caribbean World Series in Mazatlan at the end of the '77 season. Larry Doby, remember Larry Doby? He was manager of the White Sox. Don Kessinger was my player manager. He played short as the manager and I played second. Now, well, how would you like to play right next to your manager? It was not easy. It was not easy. But I'll just say this about Don Kessinger for any Cubs fans here. Don Kessinger was the first big leaguer that I got around that had like gold chips all over his body that were falling off every time he moved, because he was a master infielder. People say, oh, he didn't hit for any power. Who cares? Don Kessinger was what you wanted as a shortstop, everything you want. He was a good guy, and I loved playing for him. And then La Russa, I played for Tony La Russa in his first big league win in Toronto. La Russa went on to win, was it the third most games in history, Max? Oh, I thought you knew everything. No. I think Tony La Russa went on to win the third most games in the history of baseball, and I played in his first big league win. But I looked in the other day, and I saw that I was in the first game that he ever got kicked out of, too. Don't ask me, Pryor, what do you do during the day? You look stats up? No. I just happened to, that's the first time I've seen that. I saw the whole list of how many times he's been thrown out of a game, and I looked at the first one, and I looked up the box score online, and yep, I was in that game. So that's not a claim to fame, it's just a claim, you know. So anyway, let's show me a real quick, a couple more slides, and then nobody's going to sleep yet. There's Little League. I played Little League in Akron, Ohio. That's me there. That's Mr. Callahan. He was the grandpa of one of the kids, and his wife made the best chicken and French fries I ever had in my life. That's me hitting in college. See how my legs back like that? I leaned back, and I was on the end of the bat. That didn't stay with me long until I got into college. There's where I signed right there with the Washington Senators. Remember them? Washington Senators? Wore number 42 with the Yankees. This guy fired me 3 times. This guy here, Steinbrenner, George Steinbrenner, he offered me a 2-year contract in Yankee Stadium when I was with the Yankees, and I said, sir, I can't sign the contract. He goes, why not? I said, where am I going to play? You got Greg Nettles, you got Bucky Dent, and you got Willie Randolph. I said, where am I going to play? He goes, oh, we got plans for you, Pryor. I said, yeah, riding on a bus back and forth, the minor leagues. And he said, if you don't sign this contract, Pryor, you're going to go to the top of my dumbass list. And it's in my book, if you want to get my book tonight. I wrote a chapter on it in my book. That's when I played in Venezuela. We were called the Zulia, that's Zulia, Eagles. That's Aguilas de Zulia. And that's a baseball card. This is a Disco Demolition in Chicago. I played right there is where they went. That's the same field as that, because they blew up disco music in '79 on that night, July 12th. They collected disco records, and they stuck them behind second base, and they blew them up between games of a doubleheader. It was a rock and roll promotion. The place was full of 44,000 rock and roll fans. There were 20,000 outside waiting to get in, and they closed the gates. They wouldn't let them in. They rioted when they blew the records up. The fans rioted, came on the field, and yeah, you can go online and look at that. They have videos of that. I was at shortstop, and I'm watching. It's 44,000. It's kind of a cool experience, especially when they cared nothing about baseball. They were Disco Sucks was reaming through the stands. But that's old Comiskey Park there. That's the old stadium. I set that off thing a few times. That's another part of our uniforms. We wore white. A lot of people make fun of this uniform, but I look at it now and I feel like I'm a stud. you know, but we wore the shirts out, and we had no socks, and you know, it was easy to put on. Then guess what? I had to go back and play in Comiskey as an opponent, which was weird, going back and playing against my friends. This is the Pine Tar game. I was in the Pine Tar game. I played third base in the Pine Tar game when we finished. And there's a box score of the Pine Tar game, and you'll see that Pryor's right here. And this was on the back of T-shirts that were made by Gaylord Perry, and he sold them in the clubhouse for $12 a piece. He had them lined up in his arm. 2-time Cy Young winner selling T-shirts in the clubhouse. Can you imagine him doing it now? Yeah. But I have 3 of those left. Anybody like one? No, just kidding. About the bat tonight, I'm going to show you this bat. This bat, I was on the bench in '86 next to George Brett, and he goes, Pryor, do you have a bat that feels good? He was playing, I wasn't playing, and I said, yeah, I got a bat. It's a dark one. It's got tape on the handle. It's down there. So he's up there getting loose with it because he was hitting crappy, and he was asking anybody for a bat, right? So he went up and got a base hit with it, and I didn't know this. When he got to first base, he's tipping his helmet to the stands because it was his 2000th hit. And I'm thinking, oh, he used my bat on the 2000th hit. That is so cool. Yes. So I go down and looked at the bat. It was broke. They put it in the garbage can. Well, after the game, the bat was still sitting there. I walked up to his locker. I said, George, this is 10 years of 200 hits. Nobody in here has ever come close, you know? And he goes, I said, save this for your wife or your kids. He goes, I ain't getting married and I ain't having no kids. I said, sign it to me. He goes, go get a gold pen. So if you want to come up and look at it, it says 2000th hit, George Brett. And before I put it, that's also in my book. And before you, think that that's made up, I sent that story to him so he would verify it. Because I didn't want to print something in my book that was like, no, you liar. So, he says, that's okay, Pryor. Go ahead and print it just the way you wrote it. So that was kind of fun. And I've got, I didn't do much collecting, but this one I still got a hold of. This is running out there to get ready to celebrate the World Series win, you know, Lonnie Smith, Orta, McRae, Pryor, Orta. The reason why these guys are here is because the Scribinis are always last into the crowd, you know. We're last. The studs are over here, the guys that won the game. But this is this artist did this one, and if you, they were selling limited editions of this picture. You'll see the catcher right here. That's Jim Sundberg. He's leaping up on top of Balboni right here. Saberhagen and George Sundberg's right here. Well, if you go over here and look really close, Sundberg's got his catcher's thing and his shin guards right here. He's in the picture 2 times. That's my ring. If you don't get a chance to see it close up, they got the trophy in the Royals, and I don't have any complaints about that ring. It's big enough for me. You know, they're making it big now, but I don't want the big one. In fact, I saw the former owner of the Royals, Glass. He was pulling into the stadium, and he was getting out of his car, and I was sitting there, and I was waiting for him. I said, Mr. Glass, Greg Pryor, I was a former player. I said, yeah, Greg, I know you. And he goes, Mr. Glass, could I trade my ring in for a bigger one? He goes, oh, your ring is fine, Pryor. We go to the White House. We weren't rested up yet, but we were all sleepy-eyed, and that was kind of fun with Reagan and Bush was sitting there. There's my dad. He got to the World Series from all the way from Orlando. He's probably the proudest dad in the world, and my wife of 44 years there, Michelle. And my 2 grandkids, I'm heading to California Sunday to go see them. That's my family. I got 3 daughters that all went through KU. I already told you that. And this is my company. I've been doing this since 1995, and we're still going after it. You're welcome to go visit my website. This is a pass that they give to ball players that play long enough. It gets me in every major league ballpark. I only used it one time, but I used it in Boston. I only tried it one time. I used it in Boston, and we had 2 tickets. And I walked up to the lady. I said, I just handed it to her. She says, "Go on in." And my buddy was so impressed. He's just like walking in the stadium, Fenway Park, and he goes, "Where are we going to sit?" I said, good idea. Where are we going to sit? So I go to the usher behind home plate, and I said, sir, I've been coming in here for years and years and years. This is my first time to sit in the stands. Where can I sit? He goes, sit right in the front row down there. I got front row seats. It doesn't get me out of any traffic tickets or anything, you know. Free pass to VFW. And I say there are only two seasons, winter and baseball. And then when kids write to me, I send this card back to them with tips on how to be a better player. Attitude is everything, you know. And I wrote these out very quickly. It didn't take me long because when you do it long enough, it just becomes subconscious. Your just subconscious takes over. Any of you play an instrument in here? Any instrument players? I mean, it's so nice that you have that as your talent. It's and your subconscious lets you do it better if you practice. Anyway, any questions before we let everybody go, Paul? Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, since you were part of a team, the Royals that won the '85 World Series, did the Royals ask you to do anything with the team that won the 2015 World Series?
Oh, that's such an astute question. Because I have to say they didn't do what we thought they might do. And that's okay. It's not my team. I don't own the team. I don't know why, but I think they could have done more to show a little bit more camaraderie with the 15 team because, you know, it didn't happen very often. And there was enough of us around, but we sat in the upper deck in left field for the game. And there was no on-field any kind of ceremony, and that's okay. You know, Major League Baseball is changing, and some of us like the screens on the way over there, and some of us don't like the screens, right? Some of us don't like the balls in the dirt when they throw them out of the game, especially me. When I played, with ball in the dirt, throw it back to the pitcher. Throw the ball back to the pitcher. They wanted to speed the game up. I love 3-hour games. I saw Paul McCartney for 4 hours in Vegas, you know? Ben-Hur took me 4 hours to watch that one. How about that movie? Huh? You know, if you don't like, just leave early, like the Dodgers fans do. Any more questions?
No,
I never took steroids. If this is going on YouTube.
I wondered if did Jeff ever play in the majors?
My brother? Where's the question? Oh, no, he didn't. He hurt his arm as a pitcher and did not get to the big leagues. Thanks for asking.
How is your shoulder now?
You know, it's fine. It's never came out before, since then. But I will say this: that the reason why I have not dislocated it again has to do with my desire to avoid the pain of that, because I made my range getting so big by not having to dive. I had some of the, because I didn't want to dive. I knew that if I dove again, it would probably come out. So I stopped. I didn't dive after balls because most of the time they can't throw them out anyway. But so I protected this shoulder and still played above average defense. I played third, short, second, and first in my years as an infielder. And I'm not saying it was better. A lot of guys have played 9 positions, but it takes a unique talent to be able to mentally convert from a third baseman to a first baseman like that. You have to change everything. When I first started playing first base, normally when I played in the other 3 positions, third, short, or second, when the ball was hit, I was always watching the ball. At first base, you have to take your eye off the ball to run to the base. You have to look for first base because you're running over there. You're not watching the ball. That was, I thinking, oh my God, Pryor, you have to take your attention off of everything you've done for the last 20 years. So I was over there on the first time a ground ball went to UL Washington at shortstop. I'm over there. I'm targeting. I set my foot on the base like this. I looked up and the ball's halfway to me. I was like, oh, you got to get there quicker, Pryor. Play closer to first.
One more.
Do
you gonna come next door with a shuffleboard?
Oh, do you play for money? Do you play shuffleboard for money? I need to make money tonight. But hey, question.
Yeah, speaking of money, do you ever wish you would have collected $1 every time someone mentioned the '85 series and Don Deckinger in the same
Well,
breath?
you know, I don't mind talking about that. In fact, it's a whole chapter in my book. He's talking about Don Deckinger, who made a call in the sixth game of the ninth inning of the sixth game of the '85 World Series, and I was sitting right from here to that little wall there from first base and watching. I'm thinking, it looks safe to me. So when Jack Clark missed the pop-up right behind him, it almost hit me in my forehead. I mean, he missed the pop-up, Jack Clark. 0-2 base hit. Balboni got an 0-2 base hit off Todd Worrell. They had a pass ball. So I'm thinking they could have ended the game with a double play and a strikeout. So Don Deckinger might not have made a good call, but everybody in this room has not made one good call, some bad calls in their life. So get over it, Cardinals fans. It didn't happen because of Don Deckinger. Now, did Don Deckinger miss the call? Of course. Okay, and I know him very well. He was a customer of my company. He's not living anymore, but I knew Don very well, and I paid him off every time I could. I knew it. He's a Cardinals fan over there. What's that? No, he's the people are coming in asking these questions about my private life now, right? I remember going down there, vaguely, yeah. Now, when I got to the Royals, George Brett walked up to me. He's mentioned George Brett, and when I got traded in '82 with spring training, he walked up. He goes, Pryor. He goes, we trade for you? I said, yeah, last night. I just drove down from Sarasota. He goes, let me ask you a question. Every time I was on base in Comiskey Park, you never said hi. When I got on base in Royal Stadium, you never said hi. How come you never said hi to me? I said, because I hated you.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't going to lie. I was not going to lie. I don't know. I could have said something like, well, I'm just not that friendly. But I did say that I said, look, I didn't like any of you guys, man. You guys, I despised all of you guys. Hal McRae, Amos Otis, all of you. And I get there and showed up, and they weren't coming over to hug me or nothing. But by my locker, the day after I got traded, and Jamie Quirk runs over, and he goes, Pryor, he was on the team, and he goes, Pryor, what are they doing? I said, they're asking me for my number. He says, take number 4. I said, why? He goes, your locker next to George. I said, give me number 4. That's how I got number 4. That's the best thing I ever did, is get number 4. Because in Yankee Stadium, I was locker next to George in the Pine Tar game. I locker next to George on the road. They put our numbers numerically. So I got to locker next to him every game. Sometimes it wasn't the best time to locker with him either.
Yes. My question is that with everything that you've been in the baseball, did you still have contacts with your friends?
Yeah, I do. In fact, I was in San Francisco about a month ago, and I called Buddy Black, who manages the Colorado Rockies, my teammate, and he left me tickets for the game in San Francisco. So I watched the Rockies-Giants game, and I took a train from Palo Alto like the old guys used to take, and it was so much fun to take the train. I just wondering what would have happened to my career had I been born way back and I didn't fly, because the old guys took trains. They didn't fly. But I took the train from Palo Alto to Giant Stadium, and Danny Jackson just called our company today. He uses our products, Life Priority products, and yeah. But it's not like Mickey Mouse Club, you know, not like that, you know. Because some of the people you're around 7 months of the year, every day, 28 days a month, you can't wait to get away from them. It's like, get away from me. I'm done. Don't call me.
You know, I grew up in the 70s, and it was so fun watching guys like you play. And
thank you.
I can't imagine Pete Rose and Johnny Bench
yeah.
and Harvey Killebrew, Ron Crew, all these guys. Was there somebody out there that you really, when you walked in the stadium, you really pay attention to that guy?
Well, you know, I was lucky to play with Bo Jackson in '86, but Bo sat next to my locker and we talked. He was, for some reason, he thought I liked him. No, he was right next to my locker, and he was, in my opinion, the best athlete to ever play any sport. You know, I don't care. I mean, you got arguments. There's plenty of guys that are really, really, really good, but Bo was like, he was a step up, boy. And that's who I I really enjoyed being around him. I didn't want to play catch with him because he could, all he threw one speed was 98. He could just throw one speed. He couldn't like flip it.
Any more questions for Greg?
I'll come back again.
We have one more.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see. Yeah, don't forget, Greg also brought a book. Are you selling?
Yeah, $20. I got 8 left.
8 left. And will you autograph them?
Yeah.
Because I know that Craig wanted one. Maybe all of them. He's got nothing but money. Anyway. All right. So, hey, as you guys remember, you know, at the end of the speaker series, we'll always do raffle. Is there any vets that have not received a raffle ticket? Good evening. Any vets? Yeah. Yeah, Greg, can you leave this up until we wrap up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm going to sit right here.